We're going to continue cartography today for the upcoming adventure, Crystals of Mabar. Oh, I don't have my book cover up. Oh well. This is the map that we're building, and we'll zoom in here in a minute and start diving into the details again. Just give me a hot moment here to check my signal. Make sure I'm moment here to check my signal. Sounds like I got a signal. Okay, cool. Hey, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I've just posted that I am live on Twitter. So if you want to find out when I'm live in the future, regardless of where you may be or at, then go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. Also have some Discord that I want to throw out real quick, but while I do that, hopefully I can talk through real quick who I am. My name is Phil Kearney. Hi. I'm an artist from 3rd edition days, and I've evolved into becoming a book designer that I currently modify adventures and provide additional mechanics for playing 5e, so that, like, for example, we're creating this adventure, Crystals of Mabar, which is an Eberron adventure for 8th level characters. I've been working on the guild for a couple of years now. If there's a link down in my description down below that shows a slew of books that I've made, and they're all 100% free preview. You can read all the books, all the mechanics, all the materials, look at all the artwork, everything I have in there, and if it's something that you decide that you want to use, then consider buying them. But otherwise, it gives you an opportunity just to see the cut of my jib, so you can see the kind of work that I produce. I am really excited about where we are going with this adventure, and I hope that you guys are interested in just jumping around the playlist a little bit to see what I've done. But I'm creating this stream and multiple other streams just so folks can get an idea of how much, what it's like to create a TTRPG, in this case supplements to an already existing game, Dungeons and Dragons. Wizards of the Coast lets us use their adventure IPs and all their branded stuff. They get a cut of it, but we are otherwise free to roam, and Eberron, of course, is a captured IP of Wizards of the Coast. So if I'm going to produce anything for Eberron, of course it's going to be on the DMsGuild. So this is the flooded map that we've been building, and here's the black and white, super easy, barely an inconvenience for people to be able to print this at their table. And here's the page breakdown we do for 11 by 17 pages. So you can, when you have this, once this adventure is published, we'll have a zip file with all these maps broken down, in this instance, like into 20 different 11 by 17 pages that you can just feed this through. This is only 10 by 14 because you have a half-inch margin on each side for the printer threads to be able to push the page through. So you can trim those off if you want, but otherwise it's just a big black and white map for you guys to be able to make it super easy for you to drop this on a table and not cost you any ink. But if you're a VTT type of tabletop, Roll20 is my weapon of choice. Then you are able to, here's the VTT grid that we have. I mean, this isn't the grid that you'll be using, but it matches the vector sizing for 70 pixel square VTT, which is pretty standard. So yeah, this is what we're building. We've been at this for a couple. We've been building maps for this thing for months now. But where we're at specifically in this moment is hold on real quick. I want to see where this map might be at. There we go. So while we were away, last time we checked in, we were working over on this swirl of water in this flooded puddle. I've since then finished out the swirliness of water in these different puddles that are in the area in general. We've filled out all of the open graves at this point, and all the potholes and stuff that are over here. Not 100% happy with how these look. They seem awfully crisp, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. Kind of like fading down a little bit. These pothole puddles are potholes, I guess. These potholes are difficult because they have even less room to maneuver throughout the. How to put. You know what? I don't. Sorry, I'm having a momentary thought process here. My situation is I'm okay. I want to have less swirliness going on here. I kind of don't want to have so much sharpness. Like it just feels too deep. These are just potholes, man, and like these are pits. Like these are pits you do not want to get in. But these are just like little, like little bumps on the ground. So I feel like I should be backing off on. On how deep these are. I can feel I can get away with if I reduce the amount of contrast, that it'll feel like it's thinner. So I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these things out into a separate effort. Let's do that. It just feels too sharp. Oh man, we got some smooth jazz going on this morning. Thank you, Epidemic. I love me some smooth jazz. Let's take it down to 25. I'm gonna just drop this into the water layer to keep it safe. Good morning, folks. I'm gonna have some coffee. Oh my god, I need to set a timer. Yeah, I think that looks okay. I might have to go back through and drop some texture, like some tiles in there to break up those puddles a little bit so that they don't. Like, I don't want people thinking that they can't traverse this area to get into this. We'll have to work on that. We can work on that. We can just redo the black and white line here and then just drop in different layers, because I just think these are going to prove to be too big in the end. So we'll probably come back through and fix that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's good. We're figuring things out for ourselves. Where we are at right now is right here. So we're gonna work on this puddle today, and then we'll sally forward. So hey, if you're new to the channel, this is I don't think I've seen anybody really other than Terran Indestructiboy and Dungeoneer Pack. I haven't seen anybody build PDFs on YouTube just to show up how design work happens. Indestructiboy, he builds full classes for 5e or D20. Well, he's spraying out now that we have this whole OGL debacle. But before Wizards killed themselves off, they Terran was building full classes basically from scratch to publication. And that's kind of what we're doing, except that I don't build unique character classes. I build mechanical systems and adventure content for play. So it's a different it's a different type of product, but it's still TTRPG stuff. So we had the initial I didn't start thinking about posting online for this. Why am I having? What is the technical difficulty that I'm having here? There is a distinct weirdness happening here. Oh, that's curious. Like that. Now life should be returning to normal. Thank you, normal. Thank you, normal life. Right. So I didn't start thinking about streaming this stuff until after we had already completed the adventure here, and as well as for the Spelljammer. Spelljammer Combat Exploration is a completely different product, but for Eberron, this was something I hadn't thought about streaming until after we'd actually created, and that's when I started creating everything else. But yeah, so we create. But actually, if you stick, like, if you like and subscribe, that'd be awesome, because YouTube and Google doesn't really understand what it is I'm trying to accomplish here, to give you guys basically a walkthrough on designing an adventure. Very long form. This is like a 90 some odd page adventure for folks to use. So there's a ton of content that goes into it. Hence we're like at what, episode 85 now? Something insane like that. 85, Cemetery episode 28. Yeah, Jesus. This thing is sprawling. So, like, subscribe, share, and watching hours of content. Just find something in one of my playlists that just grabs your attention, and just let it play, because I'm going to ramble about stuff for like freaking ever. And what I ramble about evolves a little bit from now and again, but it's mostly about thinking nostalgia about the earlier editions of the game. And how TTRPG table space has evolved, and my perspective about like narrating and mechanical design and all that stuff. I'll be back on later on today in about I'm saying about 5.5 hours. I'll be on streaming the Martial Powers project, where we're creating a mana system for all the martial classes on top, using like elemental magic or like D&D MTG color magic. That is, boy, that's about, I'd say 85%, 90% done now of the development work for that. That's also Wizards of the Coast IP specifically for Magic the Gathering, so that's something that's going to go on the DMsGuild, along with a slew of the books that I have down below. So like, if you check out those books down below, if you think that color mana stuff is cool, the Martial Powers project that we'll be streaming at lunch today will eventually be part of that bundle. And let's see, what else? Oh yeah, and then later on tonight, in about 13 hours, it'll be late for most people on the East Coast, but we'll begin Spelljammer ship token production for vehicles at the 50-foot scale. So like like a hammer ship in Spelljammer is like 250 feet long. So that's going to occupy a 5x5 grid space on the 50-foot scale map. So I have to build out all these ships at different scales so that people can use them with the combat system we created for vehicles in Spelljammer, which is also a Wizard of the Coast unique IP, as well as the adventure that goes along with it, Light as Araxis. So hopefully folks take a look at that, think it's cool. We'll see how stuff goes. So yeah, we're working along the perimeter here. Like we discussed in previous episodes, we know that Karnath is in the northern hemisphere. We're going to use normal world physics and have water swirl in a clockwise rotation in the northern hemisphere. So when we have large puddles like this, we build out from the edges here, and they push in, and we have it swirl through the space in a clockwise fashion in the little microsystems here, as well as out into the larger systems into here. So right now we're doing a perimeter sweep. We're going from the edges of this map, of this puddle space, and we are working our way in towards the center. So as we go along, we can have just the spiral of this draining, this clockwise draining effect. So that's why we are here out in the perimeter right now. We want to lock down this inlet here. Tributaries, I've been calling them, from all the water around it, because it's the narrative that we provide is that it's constantly raining here, and just because it's the rainy season up in the northern edges of Karnath, it's just a cold, wet wood, kind of like Canada. So it's like an evil necromancy, undeath Canada, but Canada nonetheless, and that's where we're at. So it rains a lot, and give me a second, I need to set a timer. Happens to be 6:20 here in Seattle, so that means we have another 5 20-minute sessions. So I set a timer just to keep ourselves on pace while we're here on stream, just so I don't lose track of time, because I've got time limits. I'll need to bail out of here in about an hour and a half and go into my day job, and then at lunchtime, like I said, we'll take a lunchtime break, and we'll do some development here with the Marshall Power System, and then I'll finish out my day in the corporate world, and then break free of that and escape into my realm of dreams of being a content producer. And we'll be back in the evening to do the Spelljammer ship tokens, which I am excited to begin. I've gotten all the maps dropped into here into Photoshop into a file that we can then build the silhouettes out of, and then colorize the top of. And it doesn't have to be an intense depth painting. It's just tokens to push around a map for spaceships and stuff. So it shouldn't be too intense. But I've been looking forward to beginning that process. We still have 3 creatures to finish in the Spelljammer: the Aesthetic, the Megapede, and the Lunar Dragon. Those are the last 3 creatures that we need to finish off all the creature tokens for spacefaring creatures in the Embu's Menagerie. Everything else is landlocked, basically. I'm already spilling here into the far middle of this piece. I don't need to do that right now. I like how this ribbon is kind of fluffing around. I like these larger spaces much more than those puddles over yonder, because they're large pits that let me kind of the world physics gets to play in on this a little bit more. It's less arbitrary. Like there's rules I feel like I can follow here more so than these puddles that we have up here in the middle. Like I need to fix those. Those are just too big. Actually, breaking these up with more pieces of more cobblestone pieces, I think would actually be a lot of fun. So I just got to drop some shapes into the line text and then come back through on this flagstone layer and just drop more pieces in there and then put more crystal junk on top. That'll be fine. So those will be able to fix real easily. They're just too much puddle. It's I kind of got carried away on that, and I'm fine with these smaller pieces, but like I want to drop a piece into here, like maybe a couple little shards in there. Just these areas that are larger than 5 feet. I just get the lid out of here. These areas that are bigger than 5 feet, I think I just need to break those up so that it's the mechanical language. The details of the map is self-informing. This is a space that can be difficult terrain, but isn't. You're not going to fall through to your throat, if you step on that puddle. And I think we just need to break these things up into smaller pieces so that's intuitively. You can just intuit that as you're running around the map. I'm trying to have this self-informing as much as possible. Like if it feels like this should only be a few feet deep, then those puddles should be a few inches deep. Then hopefully the distance from one cobblestone to the next helps inform that this is a shallow space, as opposed to this, which we've got 5, 10, 15 feet across of just accumulating rainwater and poisonous goop. Then it'll read that you don't want to get out in the middle of this because you have absolutely no idea how deep it is. And that's the concern that we want, of people not getting themselves dragged in or pushed in here by squads of skeletons that would love to do nothing more than to drown you. So having skeletons pop up here, grab you, and then drag you into this water to drown you while they're chewing on you, that's what a nightmare. And that's what we're going for. Nightmare fuel. We want lots of nightmare fuel. I'm coming in here like this and just filling these things in. It's just a mix of blue and black. The blue for the water makes it obvious, but the black makes it come across as danger, don't touch, like this isn't natural. A very Demir blue-black sort of energy to these puddles. We got black ink that we fill in here. Like that. Cool. And at this scale, I don't need to be too specific. So I can zoom in and then we can do better detail. But I do want to make sure I can come along and complete the circuit so that we know where we're heading, where we need to zoom into, where the details are at. If you get most of that stuff already resolved, and that makes going into here deeper for more detail work, it'll be a little bit more efficient because we won't be guessing. At this scale, if we can resolve all the guesswork about where the puddles are sliding to, like the black amongst the blue sliding together. Once we get that general language locked down, we can zoom out and take a look at it. Then we'll know what's our next steps, where we want to go with it. And then we can zoom in and we can just work on the detail to make sure everything's smooth. I'm just gonna add some of that in there because my heart told me to. I do not need to be that far into the piece yet. That is middle ground, which I need to see. If I work the perimeter and we get that swirling going, we know the direction that the water is going out here. That helps inform the further into the piece we go. The more we know how we should shape this mass, like for instance, in the middle here. like where that's going. I really need to lock down this corner down here. I'm gonna pull this over this way, just to center up where I'm at. This is pretty much center of page for me on my sitting here at the desk. Oops. Didn't know I was gonna use that black smudge, but it makes sense. I'm good with it being present. Yeah, like that. Here's a question. If you have bad business instincts, what's more important? That you make good business decisions and ignore your instincts, or listen to your instincts, take the loss, and hope your instinct evolves into something that you can trust better to create the results that you need? Third option, hidden bonus level. Don't assume that your intuition is going to give you what you want, but instead assume it's going to give you what you need. So if your business intuition is always bad and you're constantly making bad decisions, but you're adamant about following your heart, if you aren't getting the monetary or the popularity goals that you're looking for, are you actually winning because you're following your heart as intently as possible? And I am attempting in my own life to follow my intuition as closely as possible, even if it leads me into ruin. Because I want to be able to trust what my heart says. And I don't necessarily know what it's trying to say, because as a human, I'm pretty disconnected from my heart. It is an ongoing personal evolution to be able to listen to yourself and trust what you have to say deep inside the little whispers. So I am these next few months I think are going to be really intense for a lot of people, learning how to trust their heart on what's the right thing for them to do, like in the D&D game space, for instance, with this old GL thing blowing up. There's a lot of people that are going to have to make a lot of hard choices about where their future is going. And I pray that for people that have to make those choices, that their intuition, their instincts guide them well, and that they're able to listen to their heart. And that if things don't turn out the way that they want to, maybe understand that what they wanted isn't really how to put it. I just think it's so important to listen to what your heart wants you to do, regardless of what the results end up being. Just being able to turn off your own rationality and follow your instincts and intuition and where that's trying to lead you. It's not going to get you killed. It might make times rough, but I think we'll be able to evolve into a better people if we can act from the heart first and think about what's in it for me later. Like, set yourself aside and make the decisions that your heart wants you to make, that your heart will be scared of the results, but is desperate to say. Everyone's running away from something in their life and being strong enough to turn around and just look it in the face, so it's not something that you're scared of, but it's something that you can just travel with instead. I think that's the most poetic way of putting it. this stuff pushing in the clockwise direction, like that. Have this rolling like this. Let's do that. Just like that. This is going along nicely. Very, very happy with our progress on this piece. This is coming along much more quickly than last week's sessions. The slow cooking here that we're doing with these different maps are really paying us off, and that I've got a much faster production time here. Now we're processing these organic shapes much more quickly. And that was what I was hoping would happen. This is exciting. So as we continue this process, it was very, very slow for us to work on these very small pockets. And as we continue to move along, we're seeing that we're able to produce these things more and more quickly. So as we move from these smaller pieces to the larger areas, we're going to have the same production speed per puddle, because I'm able to produce faster results with each puddle as we proceed. So at some point, it just doesn't even matter. I think we got a problem over here. That's where it's at. Yeah, right there. Where's that stuff that's hanging off the ends? Keep my shoreline clean. There. once we complete this circuit, we'll be able to just dive in a little bit more closely. And am I still? Oh my God, I'm still in my first 20 minutes. I've almost made a full rotation around here. No, that's a falsehood. It's been 40 minutes, and we've almost made our first circuit around. I forgot. Heyo, I forgot this was my first timer out of 20. So cool. We're back into it, and we're just gonna keep on keeping on with this. Not liking that. I want to have this the blue, like the black be the backdrop, and having blue be the dominant color when we're coming off of the shore, off the embankments like this. As we move further into the piece, I like the idea of the black becoming the active color, and then the blue becoming the passive back. So it's like a change of energy. I think it's kind of cool. Keep my beach clean. Thank you. All right, back up into this space. Just smooth that out a bit. But this is a good example why we need that second passover, because this is still pretty rough up here, right? I'm already doing the second phase smoothing effect, and I honestly don't need to be here right now doing this. I need to be in the pit, all caught in the mosh pit in the middle of it. Is where I need to be going. Just you don't always control what the brush wants to do. Sometimes the brush does what it wants to do, regardless of where I think it needs to go. Hint, hint, muse. She knows I'm teasing. She knows I'm teasing. We go where she wants. She's in charge. She knows she's in charge. Boo. I gotta say, man, designing the maps along with the encounter, like the description of the dungeon or whatever the environment is, actually feels pretty important. Like you can have like if you're creating an adventure on text and you're not going along with the visuals of like how does this thing actually play and how to what's the DM actually interacting with? If you aren't building those things together, then you're going to have it's going to be disjointed. Things are going to crop up in the production of the map. It's going to call into question the descriptions and information that's in the text boxes that you're putting out. So you really need to be kind of fluid on what's being visualized and what's being described in the text, and the two things need to synchronize. Like if you're buying, I mean, God bless you if you're buying stock art maps, or like getting freebie maps or whatever from somebody, and but you're planning on using those things for commercial use, and you're not really have any control at that point of what the visual representation that map is offering. Now all the text that you have must conform to the visual language that's being expressed in the map, and like make whatever is on that map make sense for the adventure that you're producing, which can potentially compromise the direction that the story actually takes to create more exciting encounters and opportunities for players to make a difference in the adventure. So being dynamic about not the crap on stock art maps or anything that people would use, but if you're getting serious about building out a custom adventure with something unique, then you want to have the opportunity to be able to have that map change with where the narrative of the story takes you during the creation process. Like the visual stuff needs to be created alongside the text. Like at this point, everything that we have, like I shifted the location of some of the things that happen on this map. We already had the text completed, but as we continue with the visual language here, we had to move like one of the encounters from like being over here to over here, because just the spacing of the map just didn't make sense, but the position of that encounter specifically did not matter. So it was a really good opportunity for us to be able to shift things around a little bit, to have the visuals of this map that we've been producing kind of lead in that flow process, that what's encountered by the team and where they're taken around on the map, because of what the topography of the map would allow. So like we didn't consider like how close the gazebo would end up being to these shrines and into the crypt. If we had pushed this gazebo like back down to here, then we wouldn't be able to have like this effective flooded space so much. We had to move from this gazebo stuff we wanted to do to this gazebo instead. So we potentially could have shuffled around the pieces, but this feels like the best layout for the cemetery overall for what we're trying to achieve. So that just meant that we had to shunt something that was going to be over here to over here. And this is a dead end of the map anyway. There wasn't anything going on over here. So that's actually a really good move to end up being able to balance the usefulness of the map. Like you want to have things hanging out in different areas. So if a team runs off into a corner someplace, there's going to be something new and interesting for them to explore over there as well, not just in the center of the map space. You can't, the map is just representing a small chunk of reality, and you don't necessarily want to metagame that all the interesting things about the world and the space is in the center of the map that you've drawn. I mean, it's logical that it would be, but you want to have things sprawling around so it just feels organic, like this is an actual space. It's not completely gamified and centered just around where the DM wants to trigger encounters, because otherwise the team's going to navigate that space to get away from the dangerous spots so they can outthink the map. So the players are always wanting to outthink the map. So the DM has to think like a player and then outthink the lowest hanging fruit of, I want to go over to this western wall. Well, it's like, great. Well, if you know the adventure, if you know a savvy adventurer is going to think about navigating along that western wall to avoid trouble in the middle of the map, then you want trouble along the western wall to punish them, to give them like if they feel like they should be rewarded for outthinking the map, then make the western wall less dangerous, but at the same time make it something they have to earn. So have different threats along the western wall than the threat that they're facing in the middle of the map, so that they can so that just so that you can get the recognition that that the what am I trying to say? That the adventure itself is thorough and resolving these simple issues of like, well, what happens if the players outthink you? Like, well, if it's a good adventure, then you're going to be able to have enough language built into the encounter that the DM knows how the DM himself can figure out what happens if they're outthinking the map. You know, hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if it does or not. TBH. I think we've done a pretty good job covering bases and providing enough low-hanging and obtuse ideas that a DM that reads through the content should be able to intuit how they would handle any curveballs that the team tries to throw your way. Resolving variables and thinking outside of the box is what a good D&D, what a good D&D team can do. And so, just to reiterate, it's a good adventure thinks along those same lines and knows how to challenge players that are good at the shenanigan tier of play. You know, how to use the environment against itself, or how to outthink things, or what's the next step in logic if you built this environment, so that probably means that, X, Y, and Z is going to be present as a result of it. And is X, Y, and Z present in your adventure? And we've done a pretty good job resolving all that stuff. So that's why it's big. Maybe in the future I can express more, make things more nuggets and less controlled. I don't know. I appreciate I appreciate a well-guided adventure experience, and the content that's recognizing where things can go wrong. Like, this just seems very self-aware, and as a DM, I think you need to be self-aware of like, where are you at with the game? What's your mood? What's the mood of the table? What do I need to shift? Is a lighthearted social encounter with some exploration going to be better for table morale right now than a sloggy combat? Or like, if they're feeling cocky, is a sloggy is a good combat what they need right now to stir them out of whatever funk they're in? Like, the DM kind of has to read the room and be able to adjust encounters to be able to fit where the team is at. So they just want to continue with the story, because as players, they can just turn off the characters anytime they want and walk away from the table, right? So you want to have an environment and an adventure that you're processing through that is compelling and interesting, and they want to keep pressing the buttons and keep moving forward with the adventure. So we had to bake in a number of alternate, like, this does not have to be a combat encounter. This could be a social encounter, or this doesn't have to be exploration. This could be combat. Have those variables built in, so that whatever the team, wherever your team is at that day, you can have the adventure meet them where they're at without necessarily being, oh, this one's too combat-y. All of a sudden, it's like, this combat slog isn't working for the team today, so this adventure isn't working. That's unfortunate, and the adventure can't really say anything to you other than what's produced. So building those eventualities into your encounters, it becomes less about what's the specific encounter, and it becomes more about who's in the encounter. First and second, like super old school D&D, was really good about addressing this stuff. About, here's things, here are creatures and objects and traps and environments that your characters are going to encounter, but how they resolve it isn't nearly as important. Like as D&D continues to evolve, WotC is currently moving into this digital frontier space with D&D as a video game sort of environment that has pre-baked what challenges are, whether they're creatures, traps, or text walls that you can select options through, like menu options, like a video game, about how you're interacting with characters, but they won't have the sort of flexibility that you expect a spontaneous narrator to be able to come up with, to change the perspective or the attitude or the approach of NPCs, or even traps that are in a dungeon, because you can't, once you code it, you can't change it. And you know, writing an adventure is very much that same way. The problem I think that Wizards is going to have in this endeavor of theirs is that the adventures that they have produced are very thin on technical guidance. So like, you can't take Curse of Strahd and like drop it into a VTT, because, well, let's see. I'm a lot more familiar with Descent into Avernus. You can't, like, Descent into Avernus is requires that you negotiate and engage with, and just bartering your life or your soul or the souls of others with demons during the Blood War. So there's a ton of variables that are going on there, and for them to be able to code that into a decision tree dialogue with different demonic personalities, it's the adventure isn't really set up for that. Like, all the potential negotiations and options that players could be offering is going to have to get boiled down basically into 3 decisions. Baldur's Gate style, you know, you're clicking through a text tree, and all the cool ideas that your players may have had at an actual tabletop are going to be dissolved down into a few simple choices. And so D&D is being converted into this episodic adventure approach that's very... I've talked about this a number of times before, about how much that kind of aligns with the mentality of what Adventure League is. Like, Adventure League is really a really smart precursor to decision tree auto dungeons. You know, it's the AI is going to get smart enough to be able to create self-contained decision trees for characters that are created, and it'll be able to create a map that goes along with it, and we'll be able to auto-populate creatures inside of that. But it doesn't necessarily... I question how cohesive of an experience it is, and it certainly won't have the flexibility for you to, like, say, take your Maul of the Titans and start digging a hole through the dungeon wall to try to find a quicker path to the treasure. That would be literally impossible, because it's not coded for characters to be able to go through walls. If they can, that's a glitch. But maybe, who knows, maybe they'll be able to create enough low-hanging fruit decisions that they can actually craft an adventure inside of this decision tree space to be able to present a solo, you know, log in and run your dungeon sort of environment. I'm not sure how well that's going to survive. They'd have to get rid of the old guard, you know, like folks like me or whatever that have been around for 30 years that think about character dynamic, like player table dynamics a lot, and how that small team decision making exists outside of a decision tree. Like an adventure, like this published adventure does a really good job going deep into that decision tree and providing those answers to the DM. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see how it shakes out. But we kind of built this adventure with that decision tree mentality already in mind, because that's a real, like, having that menu option of, you know, how things are going to react with different situations is a really useful tool for a DM. It's just the DM gets to add their own personality, their performance, like their thespianism to it. You know, like they get to change up the attitude and how information is presented. We'll see. need that smudge there. Hey, another 20 minutes down. Let's grab a sip of coffee. Keep at it. I don't know if Wizards is going to end up shuttering the DMsGuild program or not, and I don't know what that's going to mean for. Like, if I can't make, like, if they build the D&D Beyond place to be the only place I can put my productions, and if they're not going to actually pay me for them, there's zero interest in me staying in that space. Obviously, if I can't get compensated for it, I'm just going to go off and Orc or find whatever license it is, OSR licensing or whatever it is that we got going on, and I'll probably just have to lean into Patreon stuff, which, I mean, ultimately that's where I want to be anyway. So for me personally, this whole OGL debacle could just end up having to leave the guild sooner. I mean, if they're gonna shut down the guild and kick us off of it, what else am I gonna do? But I honestly love the IPs of these adventures and Eberron specifically, and I have no interest in, like, this is the kind of, I mean, regardless of what's going on with the company, the IPs are amazing, and I love Spelljammer, I love Planescape, I love Eberron. I've been playing with these things. I've been playing all three of those campaign settings literally for 20 years. So like that's where I hang. That's where my worlds are. So I am sad and as well as interested in seeing how Keith moves with Eberron. I reckon he's going to have to keep doing DMsGuild stuff, but if they shut down the DMsGuild, I mean, I have no idea. I'm committed to these projects right now. So this is what we're doing. I've got at least 3 books here that are going to go out on the DMsGuild over the next 8 months. It's such a stinker. It's just such a stinker. Oh well, there by grace I go. What else can I do but follow my heart and take it to where it leads me? A really good piece of advice I got once. It was from a meditation seminar. It was the way to be able to distinguish intuition from panic is how urgent is the message. If it's you have to go right, like if you're not being chased by a tiger or something, if the in those instances, like, you need to go right now, you must leave, you have to run, like. If you're physically being threatened, then following your instincts to immediately take action and vacate an area is probably the correct action. If this is something that is not actually threatening your life, and that let's distinguish that threatening your livelihood is not threatening your life, because you can be homeless and not be threatened. Okay, there's a distinguishment there. But once you establish, is my life being threatened right now? Is there risk of physical harm or death? And if the answer is no, if whatever your instincts are saying says, do this right now, otherwise you're going to lose out, that's the trick. If it says you're going to lose out from this, or you will regret not doing this, that is your fear trying to coerce you into generating self-drama. driving you from a path that you had already established was good for you to follow. But if you stay on the same path too long, your, lack of a better word, your ego gets bored, and your emotions want to stir. It wants to, an undisciplined heart wants to create drama where there doesn't necessarily need to be any, so it causes trouble. And if you ever worked in a corporate environment, you know who I'm talking about. It's that one person that's constantly stirring the pot and causing shit. Not because they think that something needs to be fixed, but because they just love the drama of stirring shit and seeing how people spaz out in response, because they themselves inside are spazzing out and constantly chasing their tail, and they want to see other people do it too, so they don't feel so stupid in their life. But if you fall for that crap, then you're just falling into their same wavelength, and you're helping feed that discontent energy that really prevents you from being able to settle and be calm. If your intuition is saying be patient, here's a very confident step you can take in a direction that doesn't demand that you do it right now, but is going to benefit from the confidence of the step that you're taking. That's the big difference. Are you bolting from where you're at like a rabbit, or are you taking specific steps like a wolf, moving yourself into a position that's going to give you the advantage of being able to continue your hunt? So that's a real guiding light I'm trying to follow. Is there a clinch of fear in my heart that accompanies whatever the next thing it is that I'm going to say? And I'm not just talking about like being nervous to talk to a pretty girl or something. Like that is its own adrenaline kick. And so you got to be able to recognize an adrenaline surge and how an adrenaline surge feels through your heart of, this is exciting to me, as opposed to like that iciness that goes along to, ooh, I don't know if this is a mistake or not, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like if you're doing that out of that fear of losing out on something, check your shit and don't jump after it. Just be patient and let it reveal itself why it feels so why does this feel like such a big emergency to you? Because if it ends up threatening your life, you'll absolutely be able to move out of the way in time. If you take your time to absorb your environment and assess what you can see around you, you'll have the ability to shift. Non-life-threatening situations only, please. That cannot be stressed enough. If you're in a relationship where you're being beaten, or if you're in a flood zone or something, and it looks like everything's going sideways, and like you really are being threatened, then it's okay for you to be reactionary and to belt out of an area, for you to be able to look back and reassess where's a safe place for you to be. But business is not the same way. Business can be patient. How are we looking? We're looking good. We are looking good. So we are in the process of just blending this stuff in. That's a lot of blue. I'm thinking... I want this to be a little more complicated, more complex. Not complicated, but more complex than it is currently. Like this, like these large sweeping areas of blue just doesn't. It's not quite jiving with me. I want more. I want more change. I want more texture. Man, I watched Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer's A Man from U.N.C.L.E. yesterday, and that was like, I want to say it was like 2015, something like that. I had forgotten just what a freaking fun film that movie really is. It's a great movie. Definitely worth your time. Henry Cavill is just he's a pretty damn fun actor. Armie Hammer is amazing too. Both of those dudes have just a shitload of potential. We need more movie star action heroes. Like what's the best solution to toxic masculinity? The answer, in my opinion, is true heroism, stoicism, and heroism. You can't be toxic if you're speaking well of people. You can't be abusive if you're attempting to help others. And you can't be a coward if you're risking yourself for others. And I think we just need. I think the problem is that we don't have enough stories that are focusing on that narrative. I think there's a lot of complaint about how things have been, and I don't think people are properly looking at classism as that economic stress that people feel is a bigger problem to solve than canceling somebody. And as long as we're being angry at men for being men, or whoever being whoever because they are what they are, the more we get broken up into that's just another form of breaking people apart and failing to recognize what value they're bringing to the table. Because if you don't value another person, then you're going to fight them instead of fighting the people that are telling you what to look at. Sorry, don't mean to get political. I have notes on my computer that says "Don't get political, don't get religious." But all I talk about is attitude, spirituality, and and state of the world. So it's what I think what those notes means is like, don't try to avoid making comments or taking stands that point the finger at people as though they're doing something wrong. Corporations don't count because corporations aren't actually people. So I can point my finger at bad decision making that WotC has made, like say in the design process of Descent into Avernus, for example. It's very thin content. It requires a ton of DM caveat that provides no guidance on how to apply that caveat. So it really just kind of leaves you on your own, which I think is bad design. So that's why we invest so much time in playtesting alternate paths to run Descent into Avernus, to be able to make it a more empowering experience for players to feel like they're heroes, that their decisions really matter, instead of just placating and asking higher powers to solve problems for you. It's be able to empower you to make those decisions for yourself. Have a campaign that can adapt to those decisions. That kind of loops back into that VTT problem. If I want to raise an army in hell and go take on the Blood War, there's absolutely nothing that exists inside of D&D or 5e games in general right now that can even approach that as a challenge, much less actually provide mechanics to resolve it, which is one of the major projects that we've been working on here with the in-command system. And so I just don't think that Wizards has the narrative chops to be able to pull off what it seems like they're trying to do, which is my biggest concern. They really want to get rid of the DM as an obstacle to getting money from players, but they don't invest the amount of creative energy needed to get rid of the DM. I don't think they know how to make decision trees. I think they've been trying to hire a bunch of game writers to be able to try to crack that nut. But you got to freaking understand how D&D works to be able to. They're basically trying to rebuild Neverwinter Nights, which has been around since like what 2005 or something ridiculous like that. Like this is a consistently failed game model that even if you have better scripting and better graphics, it's going to require a ton of effort to produce those things. And it's like for example, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, it's just text. Once you get the text down, it's done. And you get some artists to spit out some art, and you get a cartographer to drop in some carts in a dungeon room or whatever, and you kick it out there, and then you let the logic engine, which is the DMs, complete the running the scenarios. But if we're going to export that stuff into an AI, you not only have to build the full book of what the adventure is, now you have to freaking code it. And then after you code it, you have to create all the assets, all the moving visual assets that are going to populate that environment. This is a ridiculously expensive endeavor. I can see why they would say want to charge you $30 a month to try to fuel these things. The problem is that as soon as they build the first one, they're going to start looking for ways to cut corners. This Baldur's Gate thing was cool, but how do we reduce the cost on it? When we do Rime of the Frost Maiden in virtual tabletop, how can we cut our corners? It's going to lead to a cheaper and cheaper experience. That's going to leave people dissatisfied that if you're going to chase... The only reason this is happening is because they want to control the IP so they can maximize their profits. But for them, once they invent the idea and it makes any kind of money, the idea then becomes a benchmark that they have to beat the profit margin on. And when their creative energy isn't capable of creating better ideas that create sales out of excitement, the only thing they can do is reduce the cost of overhead, meaning less development and less investment in asset and story, and restrict and try to restrict access so that it's the only place for you to be able to get this information. But like so many people that are better than me at explaining these things have already stated, you can't control imagination. You can't privatize somebody's creative energy. All you can do is own or purchase the results. But you need to be able to have a system that creates those results, and Wizards doesn't have it. So they're kind of screwed, like seriously screwed. At this point, all they can really do is self-detonate, which is a damn shame. Or recant and go back. Now, I don't think they're going to do that. So, I am legit concerned about the DMsGuild future. Oh my god, I'm just looping back around in distress. Look at me. No wonder people don't want to watch these streams. See, that's starting to look better, but it's too flat. Like, there's a lot more gradients and stuff going on here. I feel like that's visually stimulating, and I don't have that depth of interest going on here, so I think I need to create a new layer here so I'm not affecting the water underneath it, so I can do interesting smudge work like this. There we go. I need to stop worrying about stuff and stop talking about stuff to worry about. I think I want to have a more inspirational. It's like what I was talking about before all this weirdness happened. just been such a disruption to the industry. It's kind of hard not to talk and think about it. Hey, that's when I learned to tell me to think about something else. Another 20 minutes. It's 7:20 now. Cool. Let's do this like this. Do a gradient fade in here. That feels much better. That's the kind of stuff I want. That is exactly the kind of stuff that I want. Barvo. It has not escaped me that I smudged out those little gradients that I had in here. They weren't convenient for me at the time. I got rid of them. And here I am circling back around to make use of them. I'm not there anymore because I had to get rid of them. Tough lesson. I'm not going to merge this down yet. I'm going to merge these things down, though. Blend that in. It'll be fun coming back and checking out this video in like 6-8 months. See how the world shakes out since now. No. Wrong button, buddy. Back on track. Maybe I can do something like this. Very nice. I like how this is sitting. God, I like this music too. Such great music. I subscribe to Epidemic. It's a pretty good royalty-free music system. I really enjoy it. Seriously, I dig this song. What is this one? This is Vagueness. Shekufe Faryad. Wow, I murdered that name, I'm sure. But the song is called Vagueness. I think that's fascinating. Love that. What a great track. Well done, sir. What a great track. Almost there. There we go. Hey, if you're checking this out still, thank you for showing up. We're just putting in the hours here to get the map done, and honestly, streaming is a really good way for me to guarantee I'm putting in the hours. It's aside from me just like being personally accountable here in real time, actually pushing pixels on screen for you guys to watch. It keeps me locked in on the screen, pushing the pixels. But it also, beyond that, there's the motivation of how far more can I push ahead, or what can I get lined up to be already, done next time we come back on stream. So it allows me to have an ongoing sort of progress report as well. How are we coming along on this? Where are we at? Blah de blah. I get to come here, smudge this in, and then I can do the same gradient, pushing this out like this. Again, just adding some depth and interest. It's like these big blocks of blue and black aren't kind of 60-ish, Like whatever those color blobs were that they had on as decoration everywhere in the 60s. It was so gaudy. This reminds me of that. So the gradients that we're adding here helps cut down on that harsh blue-black impact, that hard dichotomy there. Some places you want it Some places you don't. You want to have a mix of gradients and hard edges. I like this song too. It's Bippity Boppity. I like Bippity Boppity. Yeah, let's just do that. No, that is not feeling right like at all. So let's get rid of that. Smudge this down into this. I think I can actually merge that down. I'm liking how that's coming along. But then, oops, I'm going to create a new layer all together and come up into here and do this. Oh my god, my gut is hating on me. There's something going wrong somewhere. So far, I'm liking this. Merge down. Still got a half hour for me just to put in some smudges and we'll be done. Happy about that. Let's see, what else can we... go. I'm happy about that. I'm going to drop that out a little bit, smudge it down. Oh, this is turning out pretty good. I think when we hit our time limit, this will be pretty good, regardless of where it's at. I think when we hit that timer, when we're done for the day, I think this puddle is done, and we'll move on to the next one next time. This is exactly where I wanted to be in the process of taking like these small puddles and then making them bigger and bigger for me to see what kind of patterning shows up. I don't like the black and white black and blue effect of this. Black and yellow. Just have words, Kearney. These large blocks of monochrome is what I want to avoid. So these smaller puddles, I can already see these large blocks of monochromatic area are just, they don't feel natural in the puddle effect. I need to have these gradients work into it to make it feel more organic. That's really important for me to be able to understand that as we move into the larger and larger puddle spaces, because there'll be opportunities for us to have larger swaths of monochromatic space that ultimately just will not look good. So it's really great that I can start sussing out that visual language here so that I can avoid that on larger areas that are going to be more, that are going to draw the eye more towards them on the map, to have them remain more visually stimulating. And there I am. Drop there. All right, we are in our last 20-minute stretch, and we're looking really good for this piece. I think that is turning out nicely. I know I'm nitpicking on these pixels, but I think they make a big difference when you pan out and look at it. If you take the time to make the gradient smooth, it looks really, really good. Yeah, see, that feels better. Now all I gotta do is if I can just drop a, I feel like if I can just drop some sort of a warble in over here. Maybe if I can just want to come back, I just want to keep coming back to here. I feel like I can do something with this, like a dewdrop sort of something. Just keep me on that. Here you are. There we are. Let's do that. Oh, that makes sense. Nice. Good connect. Very happy with that. I tell you, these hardline changes here are really good about ending gradients again. Like I can have this gradient fade into this hard edge here, and then I don't have to really justify where is it going. It's a state shift, and that is something that can be used. That's a good way to be able to bounce gradients off of monochromatic blobs, for lack of a better word. But that's got some interest going on. I want to say 10 minutes left. You know what? I'm going to merge that down just because that feels right. And let's go across like this. Just do a subtle shading like that. That feels good. Snoopy. Not bad. No complaints here, my friends. No complaints. Let's add just one more. Let's see if I can get away with. Yeah, let's have this come down here and invade this space a little bit. There we go. Nice. Hey, great. I'm pretty happy with that. So that's our mess for now. Hitting save when we come back. Well, I don't know where we're going to be when we come back. But we're going to be working on this pit here. This is the next pit to work on. I could well decide to go over here and fix these puddles in my off time, like off stream time. Not sure, but it's almost 8 o'clock. I'm gonna log out now, and in my day, it is 8 o'clock here. I'm gonna be back in about 3.5 hours, I want to say, and we're going to be in the Marshall Powers project again. We're gonna build some power gear today, taking different powers and just making them into magic items. Pretty simple. So. That's where we're at for now, and Maybe I'll see you guys in 3.5 hours. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll also be back in 11 hours to work on Spelljammer spaceship tokens. So catch me then, and like, subscribe, catch some hours of content. Shout out at me on Twitter, or if you know where I'm at on Discord, say hey, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot.